On today's episode, we're sitting down with the hilarious and dynamic sisterly duo that is Julie KOONTZ and Jen Hamilton. We'll hear how PSI helped Julie through the isolation and intrusive thoughts that accompanied her perinatal mental health disorders. And we'll hear how Jen's experience as a labor and delivery nurse has helped her become an outspoken advocate for patients and professionals alike on social media and within her local community. We are thrilled that you've tuned in to the I Am One podcast's final episode of 2023, and don't worry, we'll be back with more incredible stories in 2024. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this absolute banger of an episode with our friends Julie and Jen. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the I Am One podcast are the speaker's own. Tuning into this podcast is not a replacement for therapy or any other form of professional help. Our discussions cover personal stories of perinatal mental health disorders and may feel triggering to some listeners. Your number one priority is to take care of yourself. So if you are in need of support, please reach out to the PSI Helpline by calling or texting HELP to 1-800-944-4773 for help in English and in Spanish. At PSI, we want you to know you are not alone, you are not to blame, and with help, you will be well. Okay, let's get on with the podcast. Welcome to the podcast studio, Jen and Julie. We are so excited to see both of you again. We had the pleasure of sitting down with you at the DONA International Conference in October, and it was so lovely to meet you IRL and to chat about our favorite topic, besides Emily and Jen's other favorite topic, which is chickens. But I digress. We are not talking about chickens today. We are, of course, talking about perinatal mental health and supporting folks in the perinatal period. And we're pumped that you offered to sit in the pod studio with us and chat about all the things. Normally, as all of our listeners know, we usually have one guest at a time, but we've got double the fun today.
It's like a double mint gum commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We're excited to have both of you here. So we're going to start off with some questions for Julie. So Julie, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of an introduction to who you are. You don't need to give us like your social security number and like credit card number and stuff like that, but just a little bit of an intro to who you are.
Sure. I am Julie. I'm Jen's younger sister by 5 years. I had my first and only baby in April of 2020, right when the pandemic started, and had a little bit of a rough time with postpartum anxiety and depression.
Well, yeah, really glad that you're here. Emily, do you want to ask the next question or am I doing it? We are very professional
I'm
here.
in. Hey, I've got this.
Okay.
Settle down.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so can you tell us what role like perinatal mental health complications played in your journey?
Yeah, I had acquired just generalized anxiety in college. And the way that I knew I had a problem was really defining my worth by the letter grade that I got. So if I got a C, then that means that I am a C as a person. So I started going to therapy, and that was probably, 5 years before I had my little Tate. And so I was really nervous. I had heard really terrible things about postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. And whenever the pandemic hit, it just added another layer of things to be afraid of and intrusive thoughts and isolation. And, I knew that being a new mom, I would be the person with like the stand of hand sanitizer and like wipes and like everything. You can't wear your shoes in the house. Like I would be so cautious. But then you add on a pandemic,
like zip up this hazmat
and
suit.
your whole world is just this 8-pound little loaf of bread who can just easily be squashed.
Mm-hmm.
That was really, really hard. And thankfully my sister was there during part of my delivery, and she was always so respectful and like overly accommodating to any of my like ridiculous requests as far as like cleanliness and sanitizing goes.
Oh, because you delivered in the post shutdown, right? So we were like newly shut down on all the things.
It was a pandemic baby. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was April of 2020. And with the isolation of being a new mom, plus the isolation physically from all of the people that I care about, not having them at the hospital, not being able to have them over like for dinner and just really feeling the support around me really created like the perfect storm for anxiety and depression to brew. And it came on a lot worse than I had ever thought it would. I had never experienced intrusive thoughts before. I have always found a lot of value in being on this earth, and my mind started exploring other options. And that was really, really scary because, like I said, this loaf of bread is the most important thing in my life. And I couldn't really understand or justify within my mind how I could be a good mom, but also have these thoughts. Like that cannot coexist.
Yes.
So, with my therapist that I found about a year after I gave birth, she's really helped me through all of these challenges. I actually found her through you guys.
Ooh.
So, when I was giving birth, I have this obsession with Guy Fieri. And we were watching Guy's grocery games while I was delivering. And
while you were delivering, like it was on the TV, you're just like pushing, and Guy is like, "You have 30 more seconds," and you're like, "Okay."
Yeah, my doctor, she finally said to turn the TV off because they were cooking, and this woman had just gotten kicked off, and I was like, how is she mad? How is she confused? She got kicked off. She made grilled cheese and tomato soup. Like, you're on TV. Like, do better. And so my doctor was like, okay, maybe we can focus here. But anyway, Chef Artie Sequeira was on there raising money for Postpartum Support International. And I had remembered that and followed you guys on Instagram. And during a really dark moment when I just really needed a flashlight, I had messaged you guys on Instagram and just said, I need help. And that was really it. And from there, I was connected with someone and they found my therapist.
And like whoever's running the social at that time, I don't remember. I'm sure came in and was like, okay, here are your, here's what you do. Here are the steps. Here are the access to resources.
Yeah. But even more than that, they didn't just give me the recipe. They helped me make it. They checked with my insurance and they made sure they gave me 3 options for someone who is in my area, who accepted my insurance. Like they took so many steps to make sure that I was okay. Because whenever you're in these really dark and isolating moments and you can't really take the next right step, it's so hard to find the oomph to actually make a call and schedule an appointment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's hard to know what the next right step is. And to even message somebody on Instagram might feel like a big deal. Like it takes a lot of effort just to do that. And so I think it's really cool that whoever you reached out to at PSI was able to give you 3 people that you could reach out to. And here's the information. Man, that's so hard to do for the person seeking help, in that time. So
yeah, and that's also changed the way that I care about my friends who are in that cloudy period. I can, get their information as far as what they are looking for and take all of these hard steps for them and just say, here you go, and you can choose.
It's hard to know what to do. So, yay.
I feel like you have answered a lot of our other questions. So, well, let me back up a little bit because you just talked about your experience, but did this experience finding this therapist, did it lead to a diagnosis? Did you do the name it to tame it, as it were, where you were like, okay, this is postpartum related, or postpartum was the added layer on perhaps a normal general anxiety disorder, your garden variety type? Did they help you navigate that part of it, or was identifying it or naming it not really something that mattered to you? Because that's not true for everybody,
It was important that I knew that this would be over eventually, and I would be able to see my way out of the woods. And there wasn't like an official, like extra diagnosis. It was just within the things that you already struggle with, this is an added layer that we're going to navigate. And she taught me like notice, label, validate. You know, I feel this way in my body. I'm going to label it as, you know, fear or anxiety or an intrusive thought. And, you know, it's justified that I feel that way. But now let's take it and put it in its rightful place.
Right. Okay. One final follow-up question. When you were noticing these things, like what is one that like stands out? Like were you like, oh, I noticed tension in my shoulders, like pit of my stomach? Like how did it show up physically?
That's a really great question. I think it was like almost a nauseating feeling in my stomach. And before I was able to notice, label, validate, it would stay for a while. And I would just have these ruminating thoughts. And, you know, intrusive thoughts are so contagious. And if I did any kind of research on intrusive thoughts and learned what other people's were, they would, you know, manifest.
You're like, that one sounds good too.
Brain.
Let me add that to the Rolodex.
Let me try that one out.
It's mostly just nausea. And I think the nausea also came from like, how is this my life? How I'm so nervous to go forward if this is my life.
I have another follow-up question. We have a host of questions and follow-up questions. Did you tell your therapist, I'm having these really scary thoughts? Did it take a while for you to open up and tell somebody that you're having the scary thoughts?
It did. I think, you know, I was so excited to finally be connected with someone. And whenever you first get a new therapist, it has to feel like the right fit for the both of you. And the anxiety that was in my life at the time was, let me be as accommodating as possible. And like my biggest struggle when I first started therapy was watching the time, because I wanted to be wrapped up in a bow at the time we're supposed to end. And that was my job. And that's my responsibility to make sure she doesn't feel like I need more help, I guess, or that she has to take any extra time for me. So I was constantly thinking of like, how can I best put this to where I'm her favorite client and I'm making her job easy. And, you know, we had to really work on it. And so for me to be able to take those walls down of like imperfection, or take the walls down of trying to be perfect and trying to present as this case that's so easily solvable, then I was able to be really honest about the feelings that I was having. And I would always preface before I would tell her anything, like, please don't judge me. And she's like,
oh, yeah.
Like, this,
it's like she's literally heard it all, just like labor and delivery nurses have seen it all. Like, it's like, you're about to see a vagina that looks really weird, but like therapists have heard it all, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Julie, thank you for sharing so much with us. Now you can put your feet up for a couple minutes while we grill Jen. We're not going to grill her. This is not an investigation. So, Jen, without any further ado, are you ready to get a little personal?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Jen, could you please give us a little bit of an introduction into who you are?
Sure. My name is Jen Hamilton. I am a labor and delivery nurse in North Carolina, and I have a lot of online buddies to the tune of 3 million. I talk about evidence-based practice. I talk about taking the fear out of labor and birth and chickens. I do have 2 indoor chickens that I put diapers on so they can live in my house. I also have 2 human chickens, boys, that don't wear diapers in the house. And they are cool. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, I think that about covers it. Thanks for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. Just anytime.
I'm kidding.
Okay, story time really quick. TikTok knew, like I joined in 2020 and I was like, listen, what the hell else am I doing right now? Like, let's just be entertained. And TikTok was like, you know who you need to follow. You like birthy things and chickens. So like early on, I was like, oh, she's funny. I'm into it.
Thank you.
And also evidence-based. Thank you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
So, Jen, could you tell us a little bit about how perinatal mental health complications, or anything perinatal birth related, plays a role in your personal or professional life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't really have a good personal understanding of what perinatal mental health was like or what it could be like until I saw it in my patients and then also got to experience it with my sister. So, with both of my kids, I really didn't have postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. But I think that me seeing it in real life in somebody that I really truly loved has made me a more empathetic and compassionate nurse and taking the extra steps that maybe I might not have having not had that experience. So, for instance, in our admission checklist that we have to go through, we have all these quadrillion questions that we have to ask, like, do you know where your next meal will come from? Do you have problems with transportation? Like all of that stuff. Some of those questions are like, do you have any thoughts of hurting yourself or anyone else? And then it's kind of like a short questionnaire. But one of the questions that I add on top of that is, have you experienced postpartum depression or anxiety before, like if they've had babies before? And then I always give the caveat that having babies can do stuff to our brains that makes us have scary thoughts or things that you never thought that you would feel or experience before. And I want you to know that this is common, but it is not normal. And that there are so many things that we can do to make you feel better if you have that happen. So I want to go ahead and take away the shame and guilt of feeling that way before it happens. And then I also have a conversation with the support person in the room saying that if you see her being, overwhelmed or anxious to the point of not being able to feel like she can cope or carry on, you need to be her advocate and speaking up and getting her help. Because sometimes you, just like Julie said, like you can't even imagine doing the next thing. So oftentimes we as women will just not say anything. But if you have a support person who's really in tune to you, and you're in the way that you are, they can pick up on those subtle cues before they become really, really scary stuff. But yeah, I think that having that conversation in labor before you get to the point where you're at home, you're like, there is something wrong with me, kind of helps to take away the shame and guilt of those feelings before they happen.
I really like how you just use plain language also. Like you may have some scary thoughts that pop into your head that might feel out of the ordinary. I didn't know what intrusive thoughts were or postpartum anxiety, or I didn't know what OCD was. But when you say it the way that you're saying it, it's like, oh, okay. You're putting that on people's radar. And if it's already happening, then.
I have a friend who's also a nurse who said that she did not even realize that she had postpartum depression or anxiety because the intrusive thoughts became normal. So, we can desensitize ourselves to really scary stuff. Kind of getting to a point where those intrusive thoughts or the scary things aren't scary anymore, and we don't do anything about it because it becomes normal. Because we forget what it could feel like to feel good or feel peace.
Exactly. Which takes us back to what you just said, which is that it's common but not normal. And so like when something that is common but not normal becomes our norm, we then think, oh, like this is just how I operate.
This is
just
how it is
the way
now.
It is, yeah.
Okay, what other things do you do that support folks in the perinatal period? I would argue that you could list your TikToks as evidence for sure, because I think there's a lot of valuable information there. But are there other things that you do professionally or personally that are like connected to that piece of it? Because labor and delivery is really like a specific period of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a couple years ago, I started a nonprofit called Hot Mess Express. And it's basically a group of moms who just get together and rescue other moms who are really, really struggling. So sometimes that means somebody going through postpartum, but it could also mean like, hey, I lost my partner, or hey, my child is sick, or hey, I am struggling with my mental health. And all of the things that are already overwhelming to moms, like cleaning your house and doing dishes, laundry, organization. Those things are already overwhelming to just everyone, but those things become so overwhelming that they don't get done. And so we as moms, it was just a non-judgmental group of moms. We go and we rescue those moms. So we send them out the house for a few hours, and then we have like 8 to 10 volunteer moms who come in and we do their dishes, laundry, organize, and we just give them like a reset. So the whole thing is that we all go through those moments where we feel like we can't do it anymore. And so being able to take away that part of the overwhelming stuff that's going on can give you enough of a reset to kind of feel like you can do the next right thing. So I think that even more than just the Hot Mess Express stuff, it's just normalizing being not okay so that we have the strength and bravery to say, I'm not okay. So if anybody watches anything that I put out for any amount of time, you can see I'm a hot mess, and I will be the first to admit it. So I think that the sooner we take away this like Instagram filter mom life situation, the better, because that's not real life. I think that we collectively have to just say, I'm not okay, and that's okay.
I remember when our local news station came over to Jen's house to talk about Hot Mess Express. And I saw the background of her house. I'm like, Jen, you didn't even clean before they came. And she's like, that's the point. Like, if more people were like her that are in the spotlight, that people look up to on TikTok, on social media, can take their camera and just zoom out from the one corner of their house that's perfect and show the rest of the world that, like, you don't have to have a Pinterest worthy laundry room in order to be a happy person. You don't have to have all of your kids' artwork perfectly hung to be a good mom. And I've just loved that she just keeps it real like that.
Appreciate you. I know. I'll pass her $5 for saying the nice stuff about me.
It's like everyone needs a hype squad. We can just like do that for each other a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm surrounded by piles of all kinds of wild things. So let's just keep it real.
Okay. So have you, as an influencer, seen or interacted with anyone who is going through like a perinatal mental health situation? What could you do? What are you, I mean, you're not bound to do anything at all, but I think when we're all good people and we want everyone to be able to live their best life, and mental health complications absolutely get in the way of that. So like, how do you navigate that? Like, have you had people like slide into your DMs and be like, I'm not okay?
Yeah.
What is that like?
That's probably been the hardest part of this life. And it's just because people want to find somebody who gets it and who can help them. And so I am but one person. And so that has been a really tough thing to navigate.
Yes.
And I'd say that 90% of the people who reach out and say, I'm not okay, it's based on a birth experience that they had that has kind of, I believe, triggered some of this postpartum depression, anxiety. So I also think that having a very, very strict birth plan can lead to postpartum depression and anxiety, because there's this sense of grief that you're dealing with if it doesn't come to fruition in the way that you hoped. That's why I talk all over the country about preventing birth trauma, and how we as caregivers and people in the hospital, no matter what someone's birth plan is and no matter what happens, we can make sure that they are heard, seen, believed, listened to, respected, empowered, all of those things, regardless of what happens. So for me personally, I've had to, in order to protect my own mental health, kind of refer people to, I have great ideas on how that they can, process their birth trauma. And I think that one of the first steps is getting clarity on what happened, because there's a lot of birth trauma stories that I consume, whether someone sends them to me or videos that I see, and they describe a very, very normal course of labor and birth. But because no one talked to them compassionately or empathetically, or no one explained to them what was happening, they left that birth experience feeling grief. And that just kind of set the tone for their postpartum life. And so one of the things I tell people to do is to go get your medical records, if you feel like you are in a headspace to do this, but to get your medical records and take them to your care provider and have them go through it with you. Like, make a whole appointment just for that, so that you can begin to move forward. But yeah, a lot of people that reach out to me that are not doing okay, it is mainly for that. And I think that comes from just the stuff that I do on the internet, talking about birth trauma. That's kind of where people are seeking clarity from me. And it's hard for me because I can only go by what what you're saying. I wasn't there. I don't have any records. It's very difficult for me to act in that way. So I highly encourage people who are dealing with postpartum depression and anxiety, where they feel like they're ruminating a lot on what happened in that birth space, to get clarity on what happened.
For sure.
Absolutely. Quick note, I'm pretty sure that PSI has a birth trauma support group that they run at a regular interval.
Oh.
So I will verify that and make sure to send you the link, so that when people are like asking about that they can sign up.
Yes.
And sorry, support group people, because you're about to have an influx.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. But also referring them to the places that I know can help them. So not only saying, hey, go talk to your doctor, but here is an amazing resource that can help you to process what's going on. And I talk about PSI.
Thank you,
Jen. Thanks. That's fabulous.
What was the original inspiration for becoming an advocate for birth, for all of the things that you're doing? Yeah.
You weren't always on TikTok. You were,
right,
I'm assuming, a labor and delivery nurse first, and then you're like, I should get on the internet. Tell us. Let's go back.
So,
how did this start?
Similarly to Emily's start on TikTok, we had a pandemic, and I did not want to download another app because I knew it would take my whole time up, and it has. But I found that whenever I was on the internet, it was not just cat videos or chicken videos. I was being able to connect with the patients that I would see in the future, hypothetically. I'm seeing pregnant people talking about the things that are scary to them. I'm seeing people who are preparing for labor or are in labor talking about what's going on. And I'm also seeing people talking about their birth experience and how they were not listened to or not heard. And I assumed wrongly that everyone loves labor and delivery nurses, and everybody has a great time, and hero nurse, like everybody loves us. And that is not the case. And so I quickly learned that sometimes we're the enemy. And instead of being defensive of that and being like, no, we're great, I owned that. Like, yeah, you're right. There are some times that people suck. And so I think that it was important for me not only to be an advocate for patients and their education and talking about things that they need to know before they go in, but also being an advocate for education for nurses and how we can be better, compassionate, empathetic communicators, and taking every opportunity to talk with our patients throughout the process to prevent the birth trauma that is happening. Because I dare say that 90% of birth trauma has nothing to do with what happens to you, but is what is happening around you. Like, it doesn't have to mean that you had an emergency C-section. It doesn't have to mean that, your baby was born with a vacuum or your baby went to the NICU. It could mean like, no one listened to me whenever I said I was in pain, or no one took me seriously, or something happened and no one explained to me what was going on. So I think that we could prevent about 90% of the most traumatic things that happen in labor and birth just by having compassionate and empathetic communication.
Absolutely.
Bam.
Before we move on to the lightning round, which we're going to do in a second, what you just said reminds me of like one of the TikToks that you had. I don't even remember what year of the pandemic it was from.
Nobody kept track of the time.
No, time was a social construct. Yeah. But you shared a post about, like, you were talking about the need to treat women of color who are in labor differently because we are trying to like deconstruct the like systems of racism that are causing greater harm to women of color in labor and delivery than to, their white peers. And what you just said like ties perfectly back to that, because it's all about like listening to, understanding, and then taking seriously like whatever the patient is saying in the moment. Like if the patient is saying like something doesn't feel right or like my body doesn't feel okay, then that could be an indicator that there's something more serious happening, right? Can you just give us a refresher?
Yeah, absolutely. So Black women are 4 times as likely to be harmed in childbirth and beyond. And I am not comfortable with that statistic. That should never be an okay thing. And I don't think that that is something that we should ever be desensitized to. And so I said out loud on the internet that I treat Black women differently. And you admit there were some people that got very upset about that. But it's the same thing that is, if I know that my patient, for whatever reason, is 4 times as likely for anything, I am going to go above and beyond to reverse that statistic as much as I possibly can. And I think that these are the women that need the most advocacy in labor. I'm not saying that I give other people less. That's not what it means. I'm just saying that it is my duty as someone who cares for them to make sure that they are heard, that they are respected, that they are listened to, that nothing is done to them, only for them, that they have autonomy over their body and their choices. And I want to be able to give that back to them because it has been taken from them for so long.
Damn, I just got goosebumps. For real.
Slow clap that. I'm pretty sure that was my response to the post. I was like, I'm just here to bear witness to this that's happening. So thank you for using your platform for something like that. Like,
oh, yeah.
So important. Okay, ready for the lightning round?
Dun,
Ready.
dun, dun. Okay, well, normally we just have one person. How are we going to do this? Ask the question and they both answer?
Yeah, we should make them fight over who gets to answer first.
Okay, we'll have like a buzzer.
Sister squabble. Okay, a buzzer.
Yeah.
Dang.
Here.
Oh, geez. Okay, I like this. This is very impromptu. I'm into it. Okay, besides this podcast, what is your favorite podcast that you'd like to recommend?
Dateline.
Oh.
There's a Dateline podcast? Hang on a second. Just a second. We're not done with you, Jen. Hang on. Dateline, like the show in the 90s that was on at like 9 p.m. and it's like basically
it's still on. It's still on.
We're going to get canceled by
Morrison.
NBC or something.
I know. I'm going to cancel you for this, for not knowing.
Jen! Damn it, Jen. Knock it off.
I know. I'm sorry. What is it?
Fine. Okay. Dateline. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put a link to that podcast in the show notes.
Perfect.
Okay. Emily.
Julie,
go.
any other?
My sister and I are very different because I like to watch TV and listen to podcasts to relax. And she likes to use it to
not get murdered.
Oh.
Yeah.
To not get murdered. That's my plan. Yeah. Do
It's
you want
preventative.
to know my plan for if someone tries to murder me, I have a plan.
I mean, sure, we're here.
Okay. If someone tries to murder me, I am going to out crazy them. Okay. So that means like acting like I'm possessed or like taking off my clothes and like, I'm biting that like there's a cat around, bite it.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
There's a cat around.
I don't know how we got here.
Dateline. Dateline is how we got here.
No, I know. But I mean, I asked for a podcast recommendation and all of a sudden Jen's like, here's how I'm going to survive if I'm being attacked. No clothes, act like a cat.
So bite the cat.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Thanks for clearing that up. Okay.
Next question. Do you prefer a book in your ear or a book in your hand?
I've tried to listen to like audio books as I walk, and then I just have to like rewind every 15 seconds because I zoned out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Is there sister congruence or is there sister divergence on this issue?
Neither. I don't like books, which is ironic because I'm writing one,
fine.
so that's
cool.
funny.
What? Wait a second. Hold on.
I'm exclusive.
I know. It's exclusive content.
Is this top secret?
It's top secret, but I'll tell y'all.
Okay.
It's going to be about life lessons from being around people in labor and birth. So it's like stories that I've collected over the years, taking out all of the identifying information, but keeping the essence of the story. Yeah. And it's going to be called Birth Vibes. And it's talking about like the humanity part of birth.
Yes. Because birth is also an institution. But if you take the institution, if you take sort of the procedural stuff out, what you have is human connection.
I'm going to quote you on that.
I mean, that's a huge part of why we're doing the podcast, because we need to hear from each other. I didn't start talking about my postpartum experience with anybody in my house, with my doctor, until I heard one of my friends speaking about her experience with postpartum anxiety and depression and OCD on a podcast. And I was like, oh, okay, I think I can talk about it now. Like I saw somebody do it. You know, if somebody, oh man, I'm excited to read your book that you're working on.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah, because we need to hear each other's stories, you know? So, that's incredible. Yay.
Okay, are you currently reading or listening to anything that you need to recommend?
It doesn't have anything to do with birth. I said Dateline.
No, it's okay.
I think rules are off.
Oh, also, like, yeah, no, there are no rules. It does not need to be perinatal, mental health related. We've got, 3/4 of the people that have been on the pod are like murder pod fans. Like, they love listening to like true crime. So, yeah, can't do it. I know. I'm with you. High five.
Yeah, I love, like, I'm not a fiction girl. The way that my brain is wired is how can I be like the most efficient during every moment of the day? And so if I can read and it can be self-care, but also like learn something along the way. So I read a book over the summer called I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And it's all about automating your finances. And it has been such a game changer for me. And it's great. All like the mental load of having to manage as a parent has just, it's been amazing.
Next question. What is your go-to for a quick mental break?
Ice cream cone from Chick-fil-A. I'm not going to lie. I think I have an ice cream cone every day.
I think that's a great idea.
Ice cream cones are great.
Judgment-free
I am
zone.
also team ice cream.
Nice.
Jen, mental breaks? How do you take them?
Mental breaks. It's a great question. Do I take them? Probably just, ooh, okay. All right. Pimple popping on the internet.
How has nobody said that yet?
I'm so embarrassed to be right now. If I need
Julie's
to relax,
not going to be on the podcast anymore. She's all done. She's going to excuse herself. Is that embarrassing to you, Julie?
No, it's not embarrassing. It's just like, how can you be like this?
Okay.
She is not on this. Like we knew
from a young age that she was not going to be a nurse. Like my mom is a nurse. I knew from a young age I want to be a nurse. Her, no, we knew that. So like her imagining me relaxing by watching a hella delicious cyst get excised is not her version of fun.
Hella delicious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like she said, I think we have the same like life values, but like the surface level stuff,
No, we're very different.
Yep. Keeps things
I think
spicy,
that
you know?
Yeah, I was going to say that keeps things interesting. Like,
Yeah.
Okay. What is your best parenting hack?
Reverse psychology.
Okay. Bam.
yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I don't want you to get
Please.
dressed and put your shoes on.
yes, please don't take your cup and put it in the sink. I would hate it if you did that. And then it magically happens. I don't know what the deal is with children and not wanting to, I need to say something about Julie. Julie is the best mom of anybody that I know. Okay.
Stop it.
The level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence that my sweet nephew Tater Biscuit has, I've never seen it. Like he can get
Tater
upset.
Biscuit.
Yeah, he can get upset and he can take deep breaths and calm himself down. What do you say to him when he's getting that way?
I saw the video.
Yes. Yeah. When he was little, the way I like started it was like blow out the candle. So I'd like hold my finger right here and just like blow out the candle, blow out the candle. And so that would like help him calm down. But I just have a really big responsibility raising a boy into a man who knows where things are in his house and who knows how to recognize overwhelmed women and how to advocate for women and how to respect women and know that no means no. Like I am so passionate about raising my son to be not only a great husband one day, if he so chooses, but also just to be a really self-aware, emotionally intelligent human. So thank you. That's very kind.
I need to have like a little Julie on my shoulder when I'm feeling heated, going, okay, Danny, blow out my fingers. So yeah, I'm going to try to remember that.
That's good stuff.
That's a good one. Look at that. That's such lovely sisterly love too.
Danny, you have to ask your radical question.
Oh, okay. Are you about ready to get radical? What is one way that you will show yourself a little radical love today?
Okay, I'm not. Yes. My mind went one place, but I won't say that.
All right.
What do you mean by radical?
Yeah. Okay.
Can mean whatever you want it to mean.
We're all adults here.
This isn't a children's show, so.
It's not. Okay. So I had somebody pick up my laundry today to do it for me.
That's really good.
That's radical love.
Oh, huge. That is radical.
Yeah.
Yes. But what's funny is I'm such a people pleaser that I did not want to overwhelm her. So I already washed and dried my clothes. And then I just sent them to her to fold.
A pathological people pleaser.
I'm a pathological people pleaser. I need to get better at that. But I'm glad that she's going to fold my clothes.
You know what? Delegating is where it's at.
Yes.
Congratulations. Well done, Jen. Julie, what about you?
Are you going to show yourself radical love?
Well, I already had my ice cream cone today.
Boom.
She got me a frosted lemonade also.
Yeah. I have been really into the Swiss cheese model of self-care where, have you ever heard of the Swiss cheese model? What is that?
This is new.
I've given a speech
Go
at
on.
work. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So if you have like 4 or 5 slices of Swiss cheese and Swiss cheese has holes in it, right? So let's say one slice of Swiss cheese represents taking a walk when you really don't want to, or feeding your body what it needs, or drinking your water, or socializing, or speaking to a therapist. All of these things combined will protect you from the stressors of life and mitigate any really disastrous effects from stress. But if I just say, well, I only need to walk today and I'm going to isolate myself and I'm not going to eat, there's holes in that. You know, there are things that are going to happen and going to penetrate the cheese. So I've been really into the Swiss cheese model of self-care. So I think what I need today is a good walk outside in addition to my ice cream cone plan.
Oh,
it's balance. I can't believe I just said that in one. Like, I need my ice cream cone and a walk. Not as a punishment, but just to be outside.
No.
To me, walking is like, it's physical. It's something that my body is doing, which sort of gives my brain a chance to process other things.
Change of scenery.
And when it's sunny out, like it feels like I'm not trapped in a room. Like I'm like, oh, I'm here. I'm on the earth. Like it's a little bit different than like, I don't know, hopping on the treadmill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if you're just going for a little stroll, like that doesn't land the same that like seeing trees or seeing a sidewalk can do. Yeah.
Emily, are you ready to ask your hardest hitting question of this entire slow lightning round?
Why, yes. Yes, I am.
Okay, let's do it.
How do you take your water? Is it filtered through coffee beans? Is it ice, no ice, bubbles, no bubbles, flavor, no flavor? I aspire to drink more water. I'm looking for inspiration. Please help.
Send help.
Dry. Because I don't drink water. I don't drink. I don't know.
That's not true.
That's I don't know how I'm alive. I'll get to the end of the day and be like, man, I really don't feel good.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And Brian will be like, well, how much water did you drink today? And I'll say, and he's like, you've had 3 meals today. I was like, I know. What did you have to drink with them? There was, some sort of like my chicken nuggets were juicy. That's where I get my water. So don't ask me. I am not the person to ask. But Julie, however, is well hydrated.
Yeah, we will not ask you about your water. Julie?
Okay, no. So Julie.
Listen, I really like to romanticize my life as much as I can. So if I can find like a really pretty bottle that will get me excited for a few months, I will do that. And I'm trying to just like get rid of one cup before I add another one. But, sometimes it doesn't work that way. But if I can say, oh, look at me, and I'm walking around the neighborhood and look at my pretty cup, and I don't know, it just makes me feel like special.
Cute?
Yeah. So anyway, iced and water on top.
Yeah, I'll drink some water if it's in a cute cup. Nice.
Exactly.
Okay. I think the only other thing that I would love to ask is if folks would like to get a hold of either of you, what's the best way to do that? Email, social media. Do you not want to be contacted? That's also okay. Totally fine.
Me. Yeah, you can find me on all the socials if you just type in Jen Hamilton. And my email is hello@jenhamilton.co, not .com.
And I think I'm just Julie KOONTZ, but you can probably find me on Jen's page.
Okay.
I should figure out what my handle is, actually.
Great.
Julie.KOONTZ.
Perfect. Well, Emily, would you like to take us out?
Yes. Okay. I need to tell a story.
Oh.
It's going to take a second. When I went to the Dona website and saw that you were going to speak, I was like, maybe she knows about PSI. And then I realized, Jen, step to the side. We want to talk to Julie. And this has been the most fun to talk to both of you and to watch you guys be sisters together. I don't have one, so kind of jelly.
Yeah, my eyes watered a couple times, man.
Yes. Thank you for the work that you are doing. Thank you for saying what's true and what's real. It is a gift to do it every time. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for tuning in to the I Am One podcast. Check out today's show notes where we'll drop links to all the important things that we mentioned in this episode. Please consider sharing about I Am One on social media and following and rating our show wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. It only takes a minute of your time and, well, that'll help our collective mission of bringing resources and local support to folks worldwide. From everyone here at PSI, thanks again for listening.